Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Sup, Craig?
Hey.
Maybe
we have a football game to talk about this weekend. I'm not sure.
I think we do.
This is even farther away than the last preview podcast we did, so we got to wait until all the way Sunday. But
I know it's Thursday night, by the way.
Yeah, it's Thursday night. So this is a podcast versus everyone, USC preview edition plus basketball edition. We're going to do USC preview first. Then we're going to talk about the Oregon State basketball game and preview the Colorado game as well. So just talking about nothing but games right now.
Yeah.
I'm Craig Powers. With me is Jeff Newser.
Hello.
Jeff, so we got USC coming, and we're probably going to play. Pat Chun said there's less than 5 WSU players in testing protocol. Then there's... and USC has said they feel confident that they're going to be ready to go. So they've had a week off as well. We've had a couple weeks off. So I'm sure all the players are itching to play.
Yeah, that's they spend so much time trying to, just trying to get the season off the ground, right? And then it goes sideways on them, and it's like the whole thing is just utterly bizarre, right? I mean. The season already was short, and we knew that from the start, but it's like all of a sudden it kind of hits you just how short it is when you take a couple of games out.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, they have 3 games left.
Yeah.
Maybe they have 3 games left, right? Like they've got USC, they've got Cal next weekend, which was supposed to be the last, basically regular game. And then they've got some other game that may or may not be a crossover, might be the Apple Cup, might be, God knows what. It's totally crazy. And this is turning out so far, cross our fingers, to be the first week that no Pac-12 games are going to be canceled.
Well, and there is, of course, Stanford has moved, they're playing at UW, and they're going to play at Corvallis and at UW instead of playing those games at home.
Yep.
USC, you never know. This game could end up being in Pullman. It's going to be hard at this point, though, because you got to drive those trucks. That's a pretty long way to go. But California just had a new protocol pass, a guideline, or law. It's not a law because it's just like a declaration. But that if the region you're in has less than 15% of ICU beds available, then you pretty much got to shut everything down. So if you really want this game to go through, you got to be watching those ICU bed numbers. We're big stat number guys here, but the big one for this game is 15% ICU beds in the Los Angeles area. And that's nuts. This for a football game, that's what we're looking at. But
yeah.
that's literally what's going to decide this thing.
Well, and the thing is, now we're getting to a point where we're getting close enough to the game that if somehow LA County says nope, we're done, you probably can't play the game.
Yeah,
right? or it's got to go to some place. Like maybe Vegas probably becomes an option, right? You play the game in Vegas because
WSU's truck's already going to be south.
Right. WSU's trucks are going to be on the way there. Vegas is close enough to Los Angeles that they could pivot to that.
4 hours through the desert.
Yep. They could pivot to that real quick. There's no way that they could, at this point, I can't imagine there's any way that they could flip that on its head and USC head up to Pullman. That's already a terribly difficult trip, which we love, but I can't imagine that would happen. So anyway, let's just hope it gets played in Los Angeles and, no more COVID cases on either WSU or USC. It sounds like everybody's coming out the way they should. And, maybe we can get this stupid thing off the ground.
Yeah. So let's talk as if the game is going to happen. I felt pretty good about that Stanford one, but just we'll go. I wish we could have played Stanford, honestly, because they don't look very good. USC looks a lot better.
Still might, by the way. I'd say they're probably a pretty decent. They're a pretty decent candidate for that game. If UW gets into the Pac-12 championship game, I would say Stanford's probably the team we end up playing.
Yeah,
because they'd already be up here. It probably takes place in Pullman. Anyway, that's neither here nor there right now. I don't know why I felt the need to interject that, but yeah.
Well,
let's talk about USC.
Let's talk about USC. Let's start with, we're going to be very, very familiar with what USC does on offense because their offensive coordinator is Graham Harrell, who, of course, was an offensive assistant, I believe the QB coach, under Mike Leach at WSU, and, of course, probably Mike Leach's most successful quarterback ever at Texas Tech. And so he is running a version of the air raid at USC. Of course, like every air raid disciple, it's not 100% like Mike Leach's pure cut stuff, uncut stuff. They still throw the ball a lot. If you look at their splits, about 62% of their plays are passes, sacks, or QB runs. And Keaton Slovis, the quarterback, is not really a runner, so you can kind of guess those were called pass plays. 62% is not like the 70+% we'd see at WSU, but it's still quite a bit. So that still leaves. They have a lot of good running backs. And they use a lot of running backs, and they have a lot of good wide receivers, and they use a lot of wide receivers. So it's well, like I'll start off with Slovis. I mean, I've watched a couple, bits and pieces, a couple of their games. I know you have too.
Yeah,
his numbers look okay. 70% of his passes, which is kind of that's become kind of the standard in the air raid. You kind of got to do around that. And so for 970 yards, 7.3 yards per attempt, that's more in kind of the Falk area of the air raid. And more around 8 is where you'd see Gordon and Minshew at his best. So it's nothing crazy, especially considering the wide receivers they have. Athletic dudes. Tyler Vaughn's, I can never forget when that catch he made on 4th down in Pullman in 2017. It made that game a lot harder in the end. WSU, of course, pulled it out, but really one of the most athletic plays I've ever seen in person, where he just jumped over like 3 guys to catch a 4th and 17 pass. He's still very athletic and can still do that, even though he's not 6'2". He's not super tall, but he's so long, like his arms are super long, and like he's like an NBA player essentially with his like limbs and the way he jumps. He's just a very tough guy to defend for smaller defensive backs. But he's not really. He's 18 for 185. You have I don't know how to say his name. St. Brown's first name.
Which St. Brown are we on now? I don't even know.
Amon-Ra.
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 Yeah. I was there's like 3 of them floating around out there, right? There's one in the NFL. There's one, I don't know, somewhere else. And then there's this one.
Yeah, there's St. Brown.
Amon-Ra.
He's a big body. Drake London's a big body. Brew McCoy is a great name. It's a big body.
Yeah.
And heck, they even use a tight end. They got a tight end, Eric Cromenhoek, who has only caught 4 passes, but 2 have been touchdowns. So watch out for him in the red zone. But so they got tons of weapons this is what we're used to in the air raid. They spread the ball around. No one's going to have dominant catch numbers, because if you look at these guys, the best they're doing is like 6 or 7 catches a game. In which WSU's top receivers are doing more than that, and they're passing quite a bit less. So we're used to this in the air raid, spraying the ball around, a lot of different guys, and USC has a lot of guys. I will say, given that, their offense hasn't been their offense is good, definitely good. They're 14th in SP+, but they're not they haven't been mega explosive in the passing game.
For comparison, I mean, that's a lower ranking than what our offense was last year.
Yeah.
Our offense, I think, was 5th, right?
Yeah.
5th in SP plus, like you mentioned, the yards per attempt from Anthony Gordon. This offense is surprisingly above average, I guess. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, it's better than above average, but it's just like you mentioned, with all the weapons, you would expect that this would be an offense that was just, lighting people up, up and down the field. And that hasn't really been the case. I mean, they're good. Like, and I don't, I feel kind of like maybe I'm being a little too harsh by not giving it a little more credit. But at the same time,
I'd say they're probably. I mean, if you're looking at air raid offenses that we're used to, they're probably better than any non-Minshew, Gordon, or 2014 Holiday offense.
Yeah,
and probably better. Probably better than that
2015 Falk.
Maybe
that's probably right in that ballpark.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, that's probably about right.
So outside of Falk's junior and senior year, then basically. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and you look at who they played. I mean, they played a couple of good defensive teams in Arizona State and Utah.
Mm-hmm, yep.
So that's part of it too. And then they played Arizona, and that was an interesting game, and that it was a lot closer, I think, than people thought it would or should be. But that's kind of that's what they've been, and they've gone 28 points, 34 points, 33 points, and the 28 points against Arizona State was kind of bananas because they were down 27-14 really late in that
2
game.
minutes left, roughly.
Yeah, really late, and so they piled up most of those yards. Like, I shouldn't say most of the yards, but maybe a third of those yards in the fourth quarter, trying to catch up real late in the last 7-8 minutes. So yeah. I mean, the other thing is, you never, what are we going to get, right? I mean, they haven't played in 2 weeks. We haven't played in 2 weeks. I mean, or they haven't played. Yeah, they haven't played in 2 weeks, and
we'll have not played in 3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so they last played on the 21st. We last played on the 14th.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So we haven't played in 3 weeks. They haven't played in 2 weeks, and anyway, it's just, what's it going to be like? I don't know. What I do know is that our defense is still not good.
Oh yeah.
That's going to be part of it, and the splits. You mentioned the splits. I am curious if, if Graham Harrell decides to do what Mike Leach so often didn't do, which was, when you've got a decided advantage in the running game, maybe pounding it up in there, because that's definitely looks like the weakness of our defense, much more than the pass defense, which still isn't great, but but the run defense is was through the first couple games pretty ultra soft, and I imagine that's gonna happen again. So
yeah, and so to put a number on it, so WSU in rushing success rate allowed. Allowing successful runs, which is a successful play, is just determined by the yardage you gain based on what is available. But they're 118th in the country, allowing 53.2% success on runs, which is real bad. And WSU has given up 29% of their running plays have allowed 10 yards or more, running plays against. So yeah, I would definitely say, I think WSU's pass rush is not a huge strength, but it's definitely one of their strengths. And their back end is probably where they have some of their best talent. Defending the run has been a challenge, and it's a place where you might even be more likely to get a big play against WSU if you're running the ball versus throwing the ball. And I think even in the red zone, USC has not done particularly well this year. I was a bit stunned by this. They've scored touchdowns only on 11 of 20 trips to the red zone, and they've actually went completely empty 5 times. WSU on the other hand, 9 touchdowns and 10 tries. So it's interesting to see if maybe USC hands the ball off a bit more, not only all over the field, but especially when they get, which they will get, into the red zone.
You sound very confident about that.
Yeah.
Yep. I also am curious. Here's the hope, and Graham Harrell takes after Mike Leach and decides we're going to throw it. Damn it! And
Yeah,
because
make it a little easier for him.
Yeah, I mean and if they decide to do their air raidy things with wide receiver screens and things like that, trying to get the ball horizontal real quick. I think that definitely is at least puts WSU in a position to maybe do a little bit better. So here's to hoping.
And I don't. I'd say like given USC in their second year of the air raid. I don't think they've really mastered the screen game yet. They don't seem to run them that well, even with the athletes they have on the outside. They haven't seemed to be that great at them. They're kind of they're better with the more traditional passes downfield. So hopefully, and it feels like WSU has defended those outside screens pretty well so far. So we'll see. We'll see if maybe USC uses the running backs in the pass game more than they have so far this season. Obviously, Oregon had success with that. So yeah, it's this WSU defense. We're gonna be like broken records, but it's the same as last year, and they're just not very good. And USC's pretty good offense, so I fully expect USC to put up points.
Yeah, and maybe they can recreate the Oregon formula and get some turnovers. Slovis can get a little loose with the ball. Yeah. That's one of his things. He's only thrown 2 interceptions, but from the times that I've watched him play, he can get a little loose with it out there. So maybe that works into our favor, because we're at this point really it's just sort of cross your fingers and hope they screw up, which is it's a strategy. I don't know if it's a reliable strategy, but it's a strategy.
Yeah. Well, let's flip it around. Let's talk about the more fun side.
Yeah.
When WSU has the ball, that's when we get to watch. Well, we'll get to watch Jaden Delora again.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gunnar Cruz. Like you.
Sorry. Can you imagine?
Your time has passed.
By the way, imagine you're that guy, right? And like you're in line to get a start. You're like
probably a couple starts.
Yeah, probably a couple. Well, definitely a couple.
Yeah,
like,
definitely a couple.
There's no doubt you're going to get a couple, and then it just nope. The games get canceled. You're this close to starting, and then never mind.
Yep.
I'd be going crazy if I was that guy. Anyway,
but yeah, WSU against USC's defense. USC is a solid defense. They're not a great defense. They're currently in, I think, in the 40s in SP+. They're pretty much kind of just above average in, success rate, so stopping the run, stopping the pass. What they do best is rush the quarterback. That's the biggest threat is that. But we've seen that even when teams break through the line, Delora has been pretty good at avoiding the rush. He's only been sacked twice on 74 dropbacks, and that's only saying the dropbacks counting the sacks and the passes. We know he's dropped back and then taken off down the field a lot more than that. So it's probably more like twice on like 85 dropbacks, honestly.
Yep.
So he doesn't get sacked much. So hopefully that can kind of neutralize USC's biggest strength, which is that pass rush. And then maybe they can, get some big plays downfield. Something I noticed, WSU, I'm not surprised. I just hadn't dug into the numbers yet this year, but so WSU's offense, over a quarter, 27% of their passes get 15 yards or more of their dropbacks, and then over 29% of their runs get 10 yards or more. Interesting. USC's defense has been pretty good limiting big plays on dropbacks. Part of that is because they've sacked the quarterback a lot, so that just automatically you're not getting a big play on that play. But their runs, USC's actually given up in just over 100 runs. They have more than 30 rushes of over 10 yards. So, hey, maybe Max Borghi's coming back. Maybe we'll have a very rested Deion McIntosh. Maybe WSU can get some chunks on the ground and get USC worried about that, and then hit them deep on those deep routes with Harris and Bell and everyone. So I definitely think there's an opportunity for WSU to keep up with USC and USC's offense in this game. They have some good matchups. Obviously the red zone is going to be that was ultimately what hurt WSU against Oregon. USC has been pretty good. They've only given up 3 touchdowns in 8 tries, and they've also notably, I mean, obviously we're talking about giving them up a lot of big plays, but they've also only given up 8 trips to the red zone in 3 games, which is pretty good. Obviously they've given up some big long touchdowns as well, but 8 trips in the red zone is not so much if you're considering WSU's defense has given up 10 in 2 games. So
we mentioned on Monday when we were talking about Borghi, I don't know, it doesn't sound real great. Well, now, I don't know, later this week it kind of does sound. I don't know, it kind of sounds like he's gonna play. So
yeah. I mean, if he's practicing, how are you keeping him off the field?
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't. I mean, they don't do the NFL thing where it's limited participant, and all that stuff. They don't do any of that. But and maybe it's like we're still trying to figure out how to decode all this stuff, right? Because
maybe it's gamesmanship. Man.
Yeah, for so long we just didn't hear anything.
Yeah,
it was just he's happy and healthy, and then. After a while, reporters just stopped asking, right? Unless they were from out of town and they were they were some out of town TV reporter who was like, "What do you think about?" And Mike Leach is like, "What's wrong with you?" So we're still trying to figure out how to decode this because somebody asked about Borghi and they're like, "Well, he's practicing and." What's he like at practice? Well, he's angry. And these are the quotes that are coming out. Right. And so, it's, you kind of go, well, what am I supposed to make out of this? It's like, is he, maybe this means he's playing. I don't know. I think at this point, I'd be surprised if he didn't play.
Yeah.
Which is great.
I can't wait to see him play again, and I didn't think that we'd get to see him play.
Oh, goodness.
Especially if he's angry, especially against USC. I remember his freshman year, he really loved running. Because they didn't play him last year. So freshman year, he really loved running against them. Yeah. One thing we should point out is it's very unlikely that McIntosh and Borghi will be on the field at the same time unless Rolovich changes something drastically or has some sort of special packages where one of them is splitting out, because it's pretty much like a core principle of this offense that it's a single back offense. So
but we have seen that he will wrinkle things up a little bit,
with Travell. Yeah. So
if he senses that he can do a thing in a certain spot, they will definitely wrinkle some things up. But I would say. You're probably more likely to see what you said, which is just, your standard 1 back, 4 wide. Maybe you see a thing where they come out 2 back and one of them, motions out into a receiver spot or something to give, the standard 4 wide receiver look. But my guess is you'd probably just see, rotation of backs back there where, guys are staying fresh, and not that one of the things I think that was amazing about what McIntosh did in those first couple games was, he was on the field for virtually every snap.
Yeah, almost
and
every snap.
Did not look like he was wearing out. He looked strong in the fourth quarter even after being out there for every snap. And I know that he wasn't carrying the ball 25 times, but being out there that much and blocking,
he's pass
and
blocking.
Yeah. It does save some legs that these guys aren't running pass routes.
Yes.
I
was going to say that. Yeah.
So, if they're not running the ball, they're staying in to pass protect, to give the receivers time to get open on some of those deeper routes in the run and shoot. So, definitely save some legs to not be, constantly sprinting out into the flat. And that was kind of one of the underrated things about what the running backs were asked to do with Leach. It wasn't even just so much like, you're just sort of jogging out into the flat. You're like sprinting into the flat. I remember, I got to do that cool thing where I got to be in the quarterback room with Leach and the quarterbacks a couple of years ago during spring practices for a day, and just observing. And, one of the things he kind of kept talking about was the difference in the speed with which certain running backs were getting to the flat. And some guys were getting there when they needed to get there, and some guys were not getting there as fast as they needed to get there. And it was funny, like to my naked eye, I couldn't really tell a difference, but Leach was like, too slow. And I'm like, okay. But that was the thing. Like they had to sprint out there to draw either to get open for a quick pass or to draw a linebacker out of the way or whatever. It's not like they were just jogging out there as a safety valve. So at any rate, these guys will be hopefully a little more fresh. Trading off with Borgie and McIntosh, maybe gives like a 1-2 punch there that maybe creates a little advantage for WSU's offense, and in particular with the speedy receivers who have frankly had a lot of success against USC. These guys. I mean, Renard Bell, if I remember right, the game 2 years ago, I think he had a pretty good game in that game down there with Gardner Minshew. I don't remember specifically, but I seem to recall.
He definitely had a huge catch in 2017 against USC.
Yeah.
In
he
his
had that big,
year.
kind of ran a little seam up the middle.
A route he'll most certainly run.
Which he almost never ran.
On Sunday. So.
On
Sunday.
On Sunday. We're playing on Sunday. Our guys are playing on Sundays, Craig. But yeah, it's, these are guys. I think the thing I love the most is that, these are definitely, especially on offense, these are definitely guys who are not going to be in any way afraid or intimidated by playing USC. They're not going to be, they're not going to be intimidated by any mystique. There's really nothing that they're going to be like, we let you guys up 2 years ago and should have beat your ass in LA. Like these guys were in that game. So
and they played Oregon, last game. So honestly, Oregon's been the kind of the big boy in the last decade and a half on the West Coast. So that I think honestly that they kind of carry more mystique probably to these younger guys at this point.
And there also is, I truly believe there is something to these guys going down to Los Angeles and wanting to play well. I think that's absolutely legit. Over the years, it didn't really matter much because USC was just so much more talented. But USC has obviously, come back to the pack. This is not Pete Carroll's Trojans, right? Mm-hmm. And then, and our talent level, I think, is higher or as high as it's been most years. So, when guys like Renard Bell, go down to Southern California, that's going home for them and they want to show out. That's important to them. So, I think back to your very original point, I think there's every reason to think the offense will be able to really keep up with USC's offense, and at the very least, make it a close game in the end.
Yeah, so I think it'll be important to take care of the ball. That'll be huge. I mean, that goes without saying, but
they're going to have to maximize possessions.
Yeah,
and that's just the reality.
Yeah, we're living the same reality we lived in 2019. Like it's going to be tough if you're not scoring almost every time. So, and that's a little bit of exaggeration, but it's also not.
Just a little.
So yeah, like we said, USC has put up some points against some much better defenses. So I mean, there's SoCal guys on the Cougar defense too. So maybe they'll want to play out of their minds, and there's they can do that too, and that would be great. But yeah, they're going to have to keep up, take care of the ball. You got to find a way to score in the red zone.
Touchdowns, not field goals.
Yeah, you can't leave points on the board. I hope they can find a way to do that. I'm hoping that being able to rotate running backs, if that is the possibility, maybe if the run game's working, that they can do that a little more because with Dion and Max are both guys that have shown they can break one off if they get a seam, and there'll be opportunities for that against USC. They have an aggressive front, and they're going to look to get after the quarterback, which means maybe you can trick them with an RPO, and get your running back into space and let him go run. So, but they can create yardage in the pass game too. But I'm feeling good about the offense in this game, and I think Jaden and the running backs are going to look pretty good against USC. It'll just be a matter of how much they need to score to win.
Yep. So what do you think? Should we do predictions?
Yeah, you first as always.
All right. I'm thinking it's close, but I'm also thinking probably USC. So I'm thinking something like, let's go 38-31. That's not that close, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of a number that makes sense. I'm like, USC, probably 5 touchdowns and a field goal, and then it's probably 4 touchdowns and a field goal, and that, I don't know. That feels about right to me. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say we can't win. I definitely think we can. USC is fully capable of puking on themselves. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. So, but I think, I do think it's basically what we talk about, which is the defense. It's hard to imagine them getting enough stops in the absence of total, dumb fuckery by the Trojans. So
yeah. So I feel good because the last time WSU wore this unicombo, and shout out to I think his name's Carson Brown, one of the Cougar Sports Network guys, pointed out that the last time WSU won this unicombo in the Coliseum, the crimson helmet, crimson pants, white jersey, that was the 10-7 DeMonte Horton show. I was at that game. I'm feeling good vibes for that. I'm going against my analytical tendencies. You already picked them to lose, so I'm going to pick them to win.
Woo! That never happens.
I'm feeling like a weird touchdown, like a defensive touchdown or a Travell Harris return touchdown, just something weird, and we'll go 42-38 Cougs.
All right. I love that. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Oh. I don't want people to turn off the podcast because we're always picking WSU to lose. So.
Well, and we're picking different. Normally we're like,
well, I'm pretty much
the same way. People
looking
probably
at the same
think,
numbers.
No, people probably think we get together beforehand and just kind of coordinate it so that we sound the same. If people only knew how much you and I argue about stuff, we don't argue that much on the podcast, but. It's funny.
Yeah.
We bicker about things. We're kind of like an old married couple.
Yeah, it's gotten worse because we know each other's tendencies now.
That is true.
So football. So
yeah.
Normally this is where we end the preview podcast, but hey, we have basketball to talk about.
Yeah.
The Cougs got an awesome win on Wednesday. That's yesterday, but Wednesday. Yesterday for us, it'll be 2 days ago, but. So we're going to talk about that Oregon State win, and then the WSU also plays this Saturday. If you remember the last podcast, I kept saying Sunday. Don't mind me. It was actually Saturday. It's actually Saturday. It was always Saturday. So they play Colorado at Saturday. So when we come back, we're going to talk about those 2 games.
And we're back.
All right.
Yeah.
Basketball.
Winning basketball.
Man, oh man, apparently you set the level of the opponent doesn't matter. The game pretty much goes the same way every time.
It's like when you play a video game and you just incrementally
You're leveling up.
Slide it up, slide the AI up a little bit more.
As you're learning the game.
As you're learning the game.
You're
keep
getting
winning.
Upgrades.
Yeah.
You've learned how to use, the
weapons,
the special power.
Yeah. Your
you've
fingers know where
down.
the buttons are, and you're okay, now I know when I need to. I need to push this button.
Against Texas Southern, they had to keep pressing pause and checking the controls.
Checking the controls.
A couple times they
like, wait a minute, what does the left bumper do again? Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, a couple times they pressed the wrong button and shot themselves in the foot.
Oh shit! I meant to push the X button, not the O button.
Yeah, they jumped off a cliff a couple times. It's it happens.
Definitely happens.
But Texas Southern, they figured it out by the end. Won. Eastern Washington, they figured it out by the end and won. And then Oregon State, they were down 10 early in the second half, and I said on Slack, like, I don't know how they're going to make this up. They're going to have to hit some threes.
I laughed at that, by the way.
Yeah,
because I was like, oh, come on. I'm like, this is not Ernie Kent.
I know.
They can do this.
Ernie Kent, at least, you'd expect some offense. Like, they were just looking so bad offensively. And
sure, but don't you feel better about trying to catch up good, now we get to argue. Don't you feel better about, like, if that was an Ernie Kent team, you're like you realize how many shots you'd have to make in a row to get back into it versus this, where it's like, you play great defense, and then if the shots start to come around, you can claw your way back into it.
But WSU wasn't playing great defense right at the start, like the first 5 minutes of the second half.
Well, no, not the first 70 seconds where Oregon State scored 7 points.
Yeah, and there's that, it was weird. Oregon State was shooting a lot of threes, which I did not expect them to do. They don't usually do that. WSU was not shooting threes, which actually turned out they probably should have shot a few more threes because the interior was not working. It was at the very start. I was feeling good because I said, hey, attack the paint. They're not very good at defending the paint, especially without their big 7-footer out.
Yeah.
And they did at the start. Noah Williams got a couple buckets early. Jazz Kuntz went inside, got his own rebound, put one back. Jazz hit a 3 early. Noah hit a 3 early. So we were feeling good about the offense. And then they were up 23-18 and then decided to stop playing offense for 7 minutes of game time. 7 minutes of game time. Did not score anything, not one single point. And that's where Oregon State took it from a 5-point deficit to a 10-point advantage, which 15 points in 7 minutes is definitely like more than you'd expect this team to allow, but still, at least it was only 15.
Yeah.
Because it could have gotten a lot worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, overall the defense saved the day because even if you're talking about, they had the flurry of offense that put them in the lead. They still, again, in the last 5 minutes of the game, only hit free throws, and most of those free throws were the result of like loose ball fouls in the backcourt.
Right. It wasn't like they had driven into the lane and gotten contact or something. And if they had driven in the lane, they probably would have given up a charge. So, so just don't bother driving into the lane.
Don't bother trying any post up move. Don't bother driving into the lane. Don't bother doing anything.
Don't even try to look for contact from a defender because you'll probably give a turnover.
Because if they're smart, they will fall, and then it will be like Noah Williams has figured this out. I'm waiting for it to flip in the middle of the season, and Noah Williams is going to flop, and then like last year he'll get a technical foul,
block after block. Yeah. And it's crazy, right? Remember, so that rule, to my knowledge, that rule hasn't changed, which is you can get a technical foul for a flop, even though we saw, I don't know, half a dozen flops in the first 3 games. It's all just whatever, man. It's refs, college refs are, it's not just a Pac-12 problem either. I mean, these, in football, it is a Pac-12 problem because those guys only work Pac-12 games. In college basketball, those guys work all over the place. They'll work all over West Coast conferences. And I don't just mean like the West Coast Conference, but that's one of them. Mountain West, West Coast Conference, Pac-12, the WAC, like it's the same guys that do all of those leagues.
Yep.
And so, and they work as many games as they can. That's actually one of the problems with college basketball officiating that I think a lot of people maybe don't realize is some of these guys will work 5 games in 7 days in 5 different cities. They're just flying from city to city to city, working all these games. And so they, fatigue, I think, becomes a little bit of an issue. In this game in particular, the old guy, Jamie Vinnick from Cougs fan on Twitter told me his name, and I totally do not remember the name of the referee, but he was the old guy. Old guy loved his whistle. Oh my goodness, he loved his whistle. And I just the one thing I can never stand is officials who just are clearly determined to make themselves part of the game. And
sometimes
we saw a lot of that.
That can cause an imbalance in calls because of how they rotate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're down on the baseline, you're running up and you're at the top of the key, so you can have a half where the fouls get very imbalanced because there's one ref that's calling all the charges on one end and then calling all the touch fouls on the top of the key at the other end. So it's like, you're doubly affected.
What he also ends up doing is dragging the other referees with him.
Yeah.
Because, and my dad, I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before. My dad used to be a high school referee, pretty high level high school referee. Not that high school refereeing is, super prestigious, but he was a pretty, worked like state championships and stuff. Like, so I was privy to a lot of the things that referees talk about and look for and things like that. My dad would talk to me about, like, we'd go watch games and my dad would watch the officials and he would like point out things. And one of the things he talked about was if you've got one guy making a bunch of calls, like, the other guy really has no choice. But and this was back
He's
when
got to even it up.
Yeah, this was back when it was 2-man mechanics, but he's like, you really have no choice. Like, you can't just stand there and watch that other guy make call after call after call after call, or foul after foul after foul after foul. Like, you, at some point, you have to, like, actually, even if you think nothing's going on, you have to, like, you have to make a call.
Well, yeah, because we've seen,
and you see this.
You see it all the time. Yeah, exactly. You see in the first 10 minutes of a half, one team will be in the bonus and another team will be at one foul.
Yep.
And so the guy, the guy that's covering the baseline for one and then covering the key for the other is calling all these fouls. The guy on the flip side has to start calling the fouls because it just, like, it ends up being unfair to, like, the other team, because so you see, I've always called it, and this is something I noticed when I would always yell it to my friends when I was at WSU in the crowd. I'm like, all right, watch them even up these fouls. WSU's only got one foul on them, which would be often what it would be with Tony, the Bennett's. Like, watch, they're going to start calling fouls on us every time down because, it's 7-1 right now. And so it's going to be 7-4 in about 30 seconds. And it always was. Like, they're aware of these things. And, and like you said, they kind of have to even out the game a bit. And so it gets, and then you end up in these foul fests, which is frustrating. And, but yeah, let's talk about the players.
Wait. Let's did good stuff happen on the court?
Yeah. Let's talk about, kind of the breakout game for DJ Rodman.
Yeah.
Really saved their bacon in the second half when, nothing was falling. And he came in, hit 3 huge threes, a drive to the basket. Man, oh man.
He had a couple of them. But one where it was just legitimately just off the bounce from the 3-point line.
Yeah. He took a guy off the bounce. The other one was a fast break.
Yes.
And then 3 threes, 13 points. Huge on just, only took 7 shots and, pulled down 5 boards, played some good defense, and all in all, just a great game for that guy, and good to see it. It's nice. This is a team that's going to have one of the, we talked about, Kuntz and Rodman, like, to be effective, they're going to have to hit a certain number of threes. And if they come in bunches, fine. As long as they're kind of rotate, if they did them all at once, that'd be great. But, like, as long as one of them shows up when we need him to, and Kuntz did in his own way, from the free throw line, getting those rebound fouls. But definitely Rodman was huge, kind of brought us back from the brink. At the same time, Bonton hit a few shots too, so that helped. That helped him go on a run to erase the deficit and take a lead, and then lose the lead and take the lead back. So yeah, it was great to see Rodman have a game like that. You knew, we talked about it on Monday. He's got the stroke, and they can fall, and they definitely finally fell, and it looked great.
Yeah, it's maybe this is a team that's just kind of like that. I know that announcers, so especially Heister and Dickow, but we won't talk about them because we've already talked enough about things that irritate us. But announcers like to they get sort of fixated on this idea. Oh, who's going to be the other guy? Right? It's like, oh, well, Isaac Bonton's going to, he's going to be the bell cow, but, who's going to be that consistent second scorer? Not every team has that, right? And it's not even necessarily to be successful. Like, you can have a rotating cast of guys. I mean, yes, ideally you'd want,
two good guys in there. 2
or 3 guys who are going to score like 15 to 20 points a night pretty reliably. Okay, that'd be great. But most teams don't have that, So the question is, okay, can you get enough contributions from enough other people to make it, to stay afloat? And so far, we're 3 games into the year. Okay. Game 1, Isaac Bonton comes alive in the second half and does his thing. Okay. So he takes over,
and, Kuntz hits a billion free throws.
Yeah. And Kuntz hits a bunch of free throws, weirdly. And then in the second game, Noah Williams, comes alive and makes some contributions. And then, and then DJ Rodman in this game, comes alive and makes contribution. And to be honest, when you look at the other players, you can see guys who could potentially have a stretch. I don't think you look at this team the way we looked at them last year, which was, if it's not CJ and it's not Bonton, it's nobody.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and that's what it was last year. Like, you just had really nobody. Noah had a nice game against UW, but that was like one game, and so it just kind of wasn't there, right? I mean, you were playing JaVale Robinson, huge minutes. I mean, you're playing guys, Jazz Kuntz was maybe not the guy that he is now, and you were playing Jeff Pollard, who, God bless him, really limited guy, right? So there were all these guys playing really heavy minutes who just could not give you much in the way of creating anything. And this year, you look and you've got some guys who, look like they could maybe do some things, Williams and Rodman, at this point. But, you look at, Yakimovsky, who had a really rough game against Oregon State.
Hopefully that's the floor for him, because that was bad.
Really, really rough.
Yeah.
He looked like a guy who was used to getting away with some things, and he's not going to get away with those things at the NCAA level.
Yeah.
So there was that piece, but also, I mean, he had a really nice, contribution against Eastern, where he hit a couple threes and had a bunch of rebounds. Okay, so he looks like a guy who could maybe do some stuff. TJ Bamba, looks like a guy who could honestly, in about a 10 possession stretch, make like 5 driving layups. Like, he looks, I mean, and he's hit a 3. I don't know if I trust his 3-point shot, just kind of looking at it, but I mean, he has shown an ability to get to the rim. He's athletic. He can rise up and get through contact. So he looks like a guy who could maybe give you something. It's so you just kind of look and you go, I mean, they at least have some guys who on a given night could do some things, and that's when you pair it with the defense that he's got.
The defense.
And if Bonton,
all these guys play defense, man.
Yeah.
At most of them we talked about, you've absolutely seen them play defense.
Yeah. And if Bonton can just get a little more efficient, not even a lot more efficient, just a little more, just a little bit. Like if he can get his offensive efficiency up from like where it is now to like 95. Like if his offensive rating can get to like 95, that's pretty good. For a high volume player. Yeah. I mean, it's not great, but it's also like it's not dragging you down, it's not killing you.
And if he could, he missed some 2s and he missed a couple 3s, frankly, that he should have buried.
Yeah.
And he would have been there. If he hits that transition open 3 when they were on a run, and you're like, this is the shot that Bonton hits. This is definitely going down, and he pulled the string on it, and and you're like, and you could see him just visibly frustrated after he let it go, and it's just like, we saw him, stay after and shoot. That got shared around Twitter quite a bit. It's obviously in his head. Hopefully it's not so much in his head that it's affecting his shot and stuff, because he's a very good spot up shooter. He's as good as it gets. He just takes some. We've said this over and over again. He just takes so many tough ones. But he hit one off the dribble in this game, a huge one. But yeah, offensively, yeah, it's his. He needs to stop those drives short of the lane and just start shooting more. It's dumb. It totally goes against modern basketball philosophy, but he's much better. Like, he is horrendous at the rim finishing. His percentages are very bad, and he is a solid shooter. So if he had a very nice pull-up 15-footer in this game, he can hit that way more often than he can hit a contested layup, because he's not getting the fouls. Like, he is getting fouled and they're not calling it. That happens a lot, but he doesn't sell it. He doesn't sell the foul. He he talks to the ref afterwards, but they don't give it to him because he's strong. He's got a wide body. He's just not tall enough, not big enough. He doesn't get as high into the rim.
Let's be honest. He's also really weirdly bad at drawing the kind of contact that allows you to also get off a decent shot. Where where you're going up into a defender's chest, and you're kind of still maintaining some space, and you're able to, get a shot up with your off arm. He doesn't, guys that do that are really good at initiating enough contact to put the defender off balance, and then maybe have a, somewhat of a clean look, right? He goes searching for contact and so often doesn't find any.
And then takes a really tough shot.
He makes the shot tougher than it actually is.
Like doing a 360.
Times. Oh my God. That thing. We all just in Slack, we were all just like, what was that? I want to know what's going through his mind when he decides, you know what I think is a good idea here? 360. That's I'm going to go up.
But yeah,
360 in the air.
I think he'd be served so well just by
Yes. Floaters and
going
jumpers.
Full, Rip Hamilton.
Yeah,
and just
floaters and jumpers.
Floaters and jumpers.
Step backs.
He's got the touch.
Yep.
He's got a good step back shot. He creates a lot of space with it. So I think he should go to his strength. Don't worry about flying at the basket, especially in Pac-12 play. The guys are bigger. It's going to be tougher. It worked sometimes last year, but his percentages have been even worse this year going to the lane, because he's probably a little figured out. So yeah, I don't know. Take some mid-rangers. I will say he doesn't get enough credit often for his defense. He doesn't get enough credit, period. But he doesn't get enough credit because he also had 7 assists and only 2 turnovers in this game. But his defense is excellent. We talked about a fast break layup that Rodman had earlier. That started with him stripping Ethan Thompson in the lane, starting the break, and then he was also running the floor and dished the ball off to Rodman for the finish. So he had 3 steals in the game. We saw him another time. He just straight up stole a pass and drew a foul down the floor to get 2 free throws, and that was big in the comeback. So yeah, he plays excellent on ball defense, plays good off ball defense. He made a very questionable decision to challenge a 3-pointer at the end. But again, these
what
guys,
the hell? You're up by 4 points. What are you doing?
I think it's hard. I think it's hard for these guys to turn it off.
Just let them shoot, man.
I know.
It's not going to hurt nothing.
It must be hard to turn it off. You're just playing so hard on defense the whole game. And
he's also the one who gave the high five to the Eastern guy at the end, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Thankfully, that is almost never called. So thankfully, that wasn't called. But
I will say, by the way, just kind of put one more thing on Bonton here at the end. As I was going through, when I was writing my recap, and I was going through that run in the second half, where they went from down 10 to up 2 or whatever it was. I honestly had not noticed, and this is one of those things when you go through the play-by-play, it kind of jogs your memory. But it's like I'm looking through the play-by-play. I really had not noticed how much of a hand Bonton had in so much of that. Now, he wasn't scoring a whole bunch, but he was getting steals. He had assists. He did have a 3 at one point. So that was the one where FA, as we'll talk about in a sec, got the monster offensive rebound and they kicked it out for the 3. But, Bonton had a hand in so much of that. And then you mentioned the defense, right? Like, he was a massive, massive part of that run. And Rodman rightfully gets a ton of credit for making the baskets, which, of course, you have to make the baskets. But Bonton really was really, really, really good in that stretch. And, yeah, he's going to make things that cause you to scratch your head or pound your head into a wall or whatever. But man, he has his moments, and they're usually sustained moments too. It's not just flashes. Like, he'll have, a number of sustained good stretches in a game. And he was just really, really good during that stretch. And he just, because people fixate on the shots, I just feel like so many of our fans overlook how good he is at so many things, at so many times. Which
is why he plays so much.
Which is why he plays 35 minutes a game.
He needs to, I hope they find some way to get him some rest. Otherwise, I think he's going to get hurt again like he did last year, which was disastrous.
Yeah.
People just remember when Bonton was hurt last year, even though Ellaby was there, it was really ugly. So hopefully, and also we're hoping for one of these, hoping against hope that, but Rapp and Fitzgerald Warren didn't look very good. I think with Rapp particularly, there might be a defensive, I saw him kind of was late on a closeout with that lefty, Reichel.
Yeah, he got benched.
And he was benched
after
immediately after that.
And he didn't play much after that.
And he didn't come in. So he's that guy that you're kind of hoping will step into a guard role and take some percentage, because Bamba's playing a little bit of guard, but more a 3. So that just doesn't leave us with much. And then Fitzgerald Warren, obviously they didn't feel he was up to the, he only played 2 minutes. So
yeah, I'm guessing in this game that had a lot to do with the fact that Ethan Thompson is a giant.
Yeah, he's a very big point guard.
I mean, he's a 6'5", 6'6" point guard. Yeah, and so I think the idea was, Bonton and Williams taking care of him. I think, and Noah Williams was fantastic on Ethan Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
He was.
Yeah, it was mostly Noah, Bonton sometimes, but it was mostly Noah on him, and
which is why he played 36 minutes.
So I, kind of an aside, I feel like Ethan Thompson is going to have his Bonton year this year. I don't think he has. He's very good, but I don't think he has exactly what's necessary to be what they're asking of him. And it bears it out in his efficiency numbers so far.
I think I agree. His efficiency has dropped way, way off.
Yeah. So before he had Trace Tinkle to play off of,
which is a nice piece.
Which is a nice
to play off of.
Yeah, nice piece to play off of. Now he's having to create. He was definitely, he definitely created in the past, but he's having to do it even more now. So, he's going to have a drop in efficiency. I still think he's a very good player. But he'll probably catch some flack of not being as good as expected. But yeah. So let's talk about.
By the way, before we do that, can I interject something super fast?
Yes,
because I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, so the referee's name is David Hall. I found that.
Okay.
And to my point, I swear to God, I did not look this up beforehand. I just looked this up now. So here is how David Hall spent his last 3 days. You want to hear how David Hall spent his last 3 days?
Yes.
Tuesday, December 1st, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, UC Riverside, Washington, and Las Vegas. Wednesday, December 2nd, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Washington State, Oregon State, Pullman, Washington. Thursday, December 3rd, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Arizona State, California, and Berkeley.
Yikes.
He worked 3 fucking games in 3 days in 3 different cities. Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. Back to back to back. I'll bet that guy was really on the top of his game today down in Berkeley for that Arizona State Cal game. Give me a fucking break.
Now I'm curious to go maybe watch the replay on Pac-12 Lab, see how that went.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That was old man ref who blew his whistle all day.
But yeah,
working his third game in a row today. I don't know where he's going tomorrow. He's probably going somewhere tomorrow. Got to get that money.
But we gotta.
All right, back to what you were going to talk about.
We gotta do FA Watch.
Yes. Oh, so good. Good
but
Lord.
But Jeff, only 5 points.
Oh, God. Okay, so I wrote up like a 3 stars kind of deal because I was trying to think like, okay, so for the first couple games you could do, what have we learned? Well, by about like the third, fourth game, you're like, okay, like we've kind of figured some things out, right? So I'm trying to think of a new take, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do the hockey 3 stars thing, and I wrote about like if there was some way to do like a cumulative points saved and points scored kind of metric, right? Where it's like, okay, so you put a ball in the basket. Okay, that's 2 points, right? You block a shot that was a layup. That's 2 points. So like, so now he's got 4 points, even though he actually only scored 2. I'm like, whatever that would be, like FAs would have been like off the charts in this game because he was just like, it wasn't just the man. He was everywhere on defense. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like every game, and in this game, he was able to manage his fouls a little better.
Yep. A lot better.
A lot better because
he only committed 3 fouls in 21 minutes.
Yeah. Which is definitely, I think he did 5 and 10 or something, in the last, or 5 and however many.
He was 10. 10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes. Yeah.
10 minutes.
So yeah, massive improvement in that regard, and you could see it. You could see the way he was approaching things. You kind of saw him back off on a couple things, like just to stay in the game, and
yeah.
You see what happens when he stays in the game. Like he has already made plays that we have not seen at WSU in a long time. Sherwood mentioned Carlos Daniel as a guy that could make plays like that.
Yeah,
but like. It probably
as
not,
a rebounder.
As a rebounder. But yeah, so we saw that you already mentioned that rebound that he set up Bonton for a 3 was just an animal of a rebound. He just jumped over 2 players
Oregon
and snatched
State
the
was
ball
like
out
shocked
of the air.
that it happened.
And then you saw him do just a thing you see NBA players like LeBron or whoever do all the time, where he just kind of jumped in the air on a defensive rebound and just waited for it to fall off the rim and then snatched it. Yeah. Like he just hung in the air and waited for it to fall. It's like we have not had guys like this. Like, and then his block when he got switched onto a guard, onto Jared Lucas, and he got switched onto him.
Well, and that you talk about LeBron, that was a LeBron play too.
Yeah, so he lets him get it by him, which as a tall guy who is not, who is a very lazy defender, I typically try that move and pick up, and it works sometimes. You let the guy by thinking he has a layup, and then he just took it off his hands, like he just swatted it away.
Yeah.
And at first they immediately called a foul on the rebound.
Oh, F.A., the look on his face.
F.A. was like, "Are you serious?" Like
he was like, "No."
He's like, "I didn't
touch him."
Like, and he didn't. I mean, it was like I thought it was a foul on him at first too. I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?" Like, no, but yeah, it was a foul on the rebound. But that was pretty funny. But wow, what a play! Like he just has these plays every game. He had 3 blocks. He had 7 boards. This is in 21 minutes. 3 blocks, 7 boards. Yeah, he didn't have the offensive game that he's had in the first 2 games, but still like he just is so impactful.
Yep.
2 steals too, man.
Yep.
Like he.
One of the steals led to one of Rodman's. Was it one of the 3s? I think. Maybe.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
Because he stole the ball, got it to Bonton, and then Bonton got it to Rodman.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, it's so good.
So this defense is already shot up to 84th in adjusted defensive efficiency from I think they were 130 or something to start the year.
Yep.
Just through these first 3 games.
The offense and the defense were roughly the same heading into the season.
And now that's very different.
Now it's gone.
Offense
gone
is
2 different directions.
Which is what we expected, honestly.
Yes.
Like we thought the defenses would be way better than what Ken Palm predicted.
We talked about the end of last year. We were like, it won't take much for the defense to get a lot better.
And when Effa is on the floor, they are elite, man. Like he is he's so good. He's such a good defensive player. Because he's not only like he's quick enough to be the shot eraser, but he's a quick enough jumper to get the rebound as well. Yep. Like he has a nose for the ball. Like he's a good, he's a good on-ball defender. He's a good, paint protector. He's a tremendous shot blocker, a tremendous rebounder. Like like we said, he's not that traditional rebounder. Like you said last game, he's a guy that gets the rebounds out of his zone. Like he wants the rebounds. I saw him just rip one out of Rodman's hands at one point, which was great.
Oh, yeah. He's like,
he's like, no, this is mine. And you want your bigs to do that. You want your bigs to rip the ball, the rebound out of the little's hands, like so they can get that. Yep. They want their stat for that, and you want them to have that mentality. And man, he's just so fun to watch. I don't know, just to have so much impact in 21 minutes and 5 points, but just feel like he was almost the MVP of the game. It's just insane. I just can't believe how good he is. I did not expect this. And they can be with him, figuring out the fouls, which he's, he already showed even better, in one game. And we know that the staff is working with him on that. And so it's just, if he can stay in the game longer, when he's in the game, just that defense is otherworldly with Noah and Bonton and DJ Rodman and just, Kuntz is a solid defender, but he really needs that bigger guy behind him. And with FA, he has that. He didn't have that with Pollard last year. With FA, he has that. And it's really cool, man. I'm so excited about him. And it's just crazy, how much impact he can have without even scoring.
Having a guy like that around the rim really changes everything. And so here's the best example I've got of what a guy like that can do. Okay, so we are all extremely aware of Ernie Kent's terribleness as a coach, right? But in particular, his terribleness as a defensive coach.
Yes. Well,
right?
I wouldn't even... I don't think there was much attention paid, but
he's bad at. He's bad at offense, but he's really, really bad at defense, right? Well, one year, he had Valentine Azundu, right? And that 1 year, they were around the top 100 in blocked shots. So here was their 2-point defense in his 5 seasons. Okay. Working backwards from his last season, 332nd, 316th, 301st, 141st, right? Where'd that 141st come? Well, guess what? They blocked 10% of their opponent's twos, right? Because of Valentine Zundu. That was literally it. They were 176th in effective field goal percentage. They were 188th in defense, which was the only time they were not outside the top 200 in his 5 years. When you have a guy who protects the rim, and we have not had that many of them. I would say even D'Angelo Castro was a good shot blocker, but he wasn't necessarily a rim protector, if that makes sense. He was kind of the master of the weak side help block, right?
Yes.
That's not the same as a 6'10", 6'11" guy who can just kind of stand in front of the basket and just reject things that come near the basket, right? So when you have a guy like that, and for as limited as Azundu was at everything else, he wasn't a good rebounder. He was a terrible offensive player other than catching and dunking if he caught it, right? He couldn't do much else, but he could block shots, and it quite literally, when he was in the game, which he was hurt a lot that year, but he transformed what was a horrendous defense anyway, but just his mere presence changed everything. And that's what a legitimate rim protector does. It frees up so much guys on the perimeter to put pressure on the 3-point line. Because okay, if I close out hard and the guy puts it on the ground to go to the lane, I've got FA back there ready to reject something. And then, of course, the offense also knows this, right? They know, okay, if I get a blow by, Like, am I putting it on the deck and trying to get to the rim? Because, like, I mean, Ethan Thompson, I clearly remember late in the game, Ethan Thompson kind of getting into the lane and then kind of looking like maybe he wanted to take a shot, but he also had lost track a little bit of where FA was and was like, he kind of looked over his shoulder. He was just kind of like, never mind, and just kicked it out to the 3-point line. And then the threat was gone. It just, man, a guy like that, he changes everything. And if this defense, if he keeps playing, if he can play, 25 minutes to 30 minutes a night, I mean, that just transforms everything. It transforms everything. And it's really the possibilities of what he can do is exciting. And I love that you pointed out the improvement that he's making already. For a guy to be so amazingly foul prone in the first couple of games against weaker competition to then play his toughest competition and get better at eliminating the dumb fouls, like that seems like a simple thing, but we've watched enough guys to know it's not. Like, it's not. We watched, Aaron Baines is a guy who comes up a lot right now. People are comparing him to Vova, which I don't think that's a great comparison. But, like Aaron Baines spent kind of like, it took him about a year and a half to figure out how not to foul people at a rate that would get him taken out of a game. FA's figuring it out, and he's gonna continue to make mistakes. I mean, I'm not saying he's over it or whatever, but you can see him making improvements faster than what you normally expect from guys.
And just one more thing on the defense. So Cal's defense is rated on KenPom, adjusted defense efficiency, which there's a lot of preseason stuff baked into that right now. Probably for another few games, probably through December. But they're currently 86th, so they're right around where WSU is. They gave up 1.01 points per possession to Oregon State. WSU gave up 0.81. So that's a 20% worse output against WSU's defense, which is by KenPom's measure the same, like right now predicted to be the same as Cal's, but I think this defense might be a lot better than even we could have thought it could have been, it's a lot because of Abogidi, and like that's because we knew we had the guards that could guard, and we knew we had that, but just to have that guy, and this could be it wouldn't surprise me if they jumped into the top 50 by the end of the year in adjusted defensive efficiency, which would be a dramatic, like it was already a dramatic improvement last year. The jump they made. See, what did they go into? They went to 83rd, so they're right about where they were last year. By the end, I think they can be even better on defense, because if you're looking at, like, they did lose CJ, who's a good defender, but just what FA brings is just a completely different package that is just awesome, and it's going to be, if you like a good defense, and if you were kind of if you miss the Bennett years, then of course you like good defense. So let's have some good defense.
Yeah. And let's mention Deshaun Jackson too. Like, we don't really know what he can do.
We saw him for the first time,
and we don't know what he can do defensively. But the way he moves suggests that he might be pretty good too.
Yeah, and we know he's coming off an injury and sometimes on a big. But yeah, he was, like you mentioned, he was running the floor really well. He looks like he's got a nose for the ball and rebounding. So if he
ran the floor really well. Like, when you watched him run, it was like, he was scooting up the floor, and I was like, oh wow. Like, I'm like, look at him go. Like, that's pretty, like, he's like, obviously a 40 time is not really relevant to basketball players for the most part, but he looked like a guy, if he ran a 40, you'd kind of go, wow, that's pretty fast. He just, he moved really great too. He definitely was not nearly as awkward as I expected him to be. Not that I expect him to be like super awkward or anything, but just like we keep saying this, but like the big guys that we get typically, like you look at him and you go, maybe 2 years from now you'd be all right. And I'm looking at this guy going like, holy crap. Like he already moves okay. He already runs okay. He can already catch the ball. Like, that's crazy pants. We're not used to that.
I will say he got 2 free throws. The only shots he got, he missed them both. His stroke looked pretty decent.
They look.
But
right.
also he has like a impossible free throw rate right now. So it just says 9999 on KenPom because he doesn't have a shot taken,
0
but
shots.
he's taken 2 free throws. So
yes,
it's like null basically.
Infinity
right now.
Infinity free throw rate,
Cougs
which is Kuntz's came down to earth, and now it's only 106.
Only 27th nationally.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm excited to see Jackson get some more minutes.
Yeah.
Because he definitely looks like he's got something there. And
yeah, it'd be cool to see if he and Abugidi can play together. Cool. I don't know that that's too much in the cards yet. My guess is that they may not want to do that too much because their third big with Vova is, he's pretty limited in the
he's
things
kind
that
of
he can do.
He's kind of a submarining lefty for a baseball.
And there was a role for him in this game because Silva's also a really big lumbering dude. So it's like, okay, so there was definitely a role for him when Silva was in this game because, they could both sort of lean on each other and lumber up and down the court. But there's definitely going to be games where that's not the case. And so then it's, and you don't want to get into a situation. I think especially in this one, my guess is they didn't want to get into a situation where Jackson had to play a lot of minutes, coming off an injury. So, but that's a real tantalizing combination, man. Jackson looks like he could legitimately guard a 4 and FA can definitely guard a 5. And so that's 2 6'10" dudes, pretty athletic 6'10" dudes, near the paint. That's a pretty darn exciting prospect. I honestly can't remember the last time we did that. I guess, you could. I mean, this is not the same, but Jordan Rayleigh and DJ Shelton together was pretty athletic. I think Rayleigh got kind of a bad rap. He was a pretty athletic dude.
And he's also very big. Yeah.
And he was also very big. So maybe that, but yeah, these two guys, I mean, it could be exciting. Could be real exciting.
Well, we talked about that game for a lot longer than
yes, we did. Whoopsies.
About 30 minutes.
That's what happens when we're excited, dude. Like, it's exciting.
So let's do a quick preview of the Colorado game. I know I gotta be honest, I'm not super hopeful. Primarily because Colorado is a place of horrors. Colorado is according to KenPom's measures, the toughest place to play in the country.
Yep.
The best home court advantage of any school in the country, Colorado. And WSU has seen that time and time again. The elevation, but they usually have a great home crowd. They're not going to have that. But the players, McKinley Wright is still annoyingly there.
How?
And he could come back next year.
How?
This is his 4th season playing. It feels like a lot longer.
I know guys who play a ton as freshmen. Those are the ones that get you.
Yeah, he played 80% of minutes as a freshman.
Yeah.
So that's he's been here forever. He's as good as ever. Quick, tough to guard, gets in the lane, occasionally shoots jump shots just to piss you off. Just a very good point guard, very tough to defend. And they just they got guys, but remember, WSU beat them in the national championship game.
Yep.
Just earlier this year.
Yes.
So anything is possible. Although it's going to be tough in Colorado. But yeah, they have players, Horn, and Jabari Walker, Evan Batty is a big dude, big wide body. I think
that's another guy where I'm like, he's still there, but he's only a junior.
He's only a junior. But that might be a guy who, with our
please don't injure anybody this year.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Don't you dare touch my FA.
Oh God. So they have players, obviously. Eli Parquet. I always forgot to say his name. He's a 3-point shooter. That's annoying. So they have a strong team. Ken Palm's given WSU a 14%
chance. That sounds about right to me, to be honest. They're just playing in Boulder is just a pain in the ass. Like we know this.
I'm just really glad we didn't have to go. This is nice because they put the Colorado road game in December, so you don't have to have the Utah and Colorado trip, which is nice.
Yep, that part's super nice. That was always the worst. Like trying to play both of those games. Ugh.
In 3 days, you get to play 2 games at elevation in 3 days.
Yeah, no thanks.
And 2 teams are usually pretty good, except for that one year that Utah was terrible, and then they still lost.
Hard
Brock
pass.
Motum, yeah.
Hard pass.
But yeah, so it's a tough road trip. Whether it's 1 game or 2. Plus they're a solid squad, but
yeah,
I
was gonna say the key is very likely going to come down to turnovers. To be honest,
yeah.
Colorado exceptionally good at taking care of the ball. A lot of our defense now it won't be as fueled as it has been if FA can stay in the game. That's a big deal. Like we last year we really relied on those turnovers to cover up for the weak 2-point defense. Well, all of a sudden our 2-point defense looks amazing. So hopefully that means that we're maybe not as reliant on turnovers, but still Colorado to this point in the year hasn't shot that well. It's okay. Like they're 102nd in effective field goal percentage against.
And they haven't really played two.
Yeah, they played South Dakota and Kansas State. Those aren't great teams. So, or any great defensive teams. So they're basically where they're making their hay is just not giving the ball up, and then offensive rebounds. So that's the other piece. If we can defensive rebound and turn them over a little bit more than they normally do, you might have a chance because they, like I said, they haven't shot it great. They're only 90th in 3-point percentage, 123rd in 2-point percentage, and they don't get to the line that much, relatively speaking. So, you put all that together.
And yeah, if you try to, maybe they can draw a few charges on McKinley Wright. Who knows?
Let's hope. One can only hope. That's pretty great. Jabari Walker, by the way, their freshman. He's drawn 7.7 fouls per 40.
Yeah. Oh god.
So
watch out, FA.
Limited minutes, but he definitely, when he's in the game, he is definitely looking to shoot, and he's looking to get into the lane. He's got 10 twos against 3 threes and has gone to the line for 8 attempts. So
yeah.
So that's a guy who's definitely looking to draw fouls and have an impact. So he's probably your X factor, and he's 6'8", 200. So you're probably looking at Kuntz and DJ and Yakimovsky guarding him most of the time. Be the guess.
Yeah.
So
to win, I think they're gonna have to. They'll probably have to hit shots from the outside and just play. Be tough down low.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Good 2-point defense. Maybe get some turnovers. Keep them off the glass. That's kind of a big one there. Got to do better than what they did against Oregon State. I don't think that things were as bad. Like they gave up 35% offensive rebounding to Oregon State. I don't think it was quite as bad as that number made it look because they got. I mean, there was one possession where they got, I think, 4 offensive rebounds or something ridiculous like that. It was that free throw.
They had quite a few clanged hard threes that just went right back to the guy on the perimeter.
And those are going to happen.
Yeah,
those are going to happen. But they locked it down late, so hopefully they can. Yeah, hopefully they can lock it down because Walker and Jariah Horn and Dallas Walton and all these guys, man, they got like 4 guys with defensive rebounding percentages above 18. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And offensive rebounding, 4 guys with offensive rebounding percentages above 7.5. Also very good. Yep. 2 guys above 10. That's also very good. So they're going to be tough on the glass. That's going to be a big key for sure.
But this, if Washington State has been leveling up,
that's right. We're ready.
Beat 220, beat 142, beat 112. This is a big jump going to
50.
number 50. This is the boss battle.
Yeah.
Before you move on to the next easy level, you got a level of easy, that easy level, but you got the boss battle before you get there.
Yeah.
It's.
But like we said, it's a nice temperature check, right?
Yeah, it's fun to find out.
And they've already got one in the bank after beating Oregon State.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I think you'd feel bad if they lost both of them.
Yeah.
But you've already got one, and unless you go embarrass yourself against Colorado, which even if they did, probably doesn't change the way you're feeling about stuff. At least not for me.
Yeah, I will say, they got Colorado, and then they got the Pac-12, there's not an elite team in the Pac-12 this year, but there's a lot of good teams and a lot of like teams that would be in the tournament or on the bubble of the tournament. So, Arizona State, Arizona coming right off of the non-conference after that. So there's going to be a tough stretch here. But those ones you get at home. So this is their one away game in the first kind of, month of the season. So hopefully a month and a half. So I don't know, leave it out there. You just got Idaho in 4 days. So they shouldn't be too tough. So
you wouldn't think.
Yeah. So
they're pretty bad right now.
So yeah, you just go out there. I don't know. Yeah, it'll be fun. See what they can do. Maybe it won't be fun. Maybe it won't be fun to watch. I don't know. 1 p.m. Saturday. Check it out.
It'll be fun to watch one way or the other. Yeah. I mean, for real, it'll be fun to watch. Like, it's, again, like I said, temperature check. And you go, okay, where are you at? And they've already. We knew these two games were going to tell us something, and so we already know we're at least as good as Oregon State. And okay, so Colorado now, like you said, step up. And we'll see what happens. And, maybe if they get annihilated, we kind of go, eh. But, if they go down there, to me, it's like you're playing with house money. I don't know. Like, I'm sure the team's not thinking of it this way. But for me, I'm looking at it going, okay, well, you go down there, you show well against Colorado. You win the game, oh, my God, right? You play well, and you go, well, hey, that's a place where we always play terrible. And you played well, and that's pretty cool, against a team that's, we think is pretty damn good. Is going to be, contending for an NCAA tournament spot. Like, that's kind of stuff that makes you feel good. And then if they go down and they play like shit, you go, well, we always play like shit in Boulder.
Yeah.
What's the big deal? It's fine. We're 1-1 in the Pac-12. It's okay. No big deal. See? I mean, you can't lose with this one. When you're coming off that game against Oregon State, you feel like, all right, we're okay. And even if you lose, we're still 3-1.
Yeah, most teams lose in Boulder, to be honest.
Idaho, Portland State, Montana State, Prairie View A&M, and Northwestern State. Like, you got 5 cupcakes coming up. Maybe Montana State gives you a challenge, but you got 5 cupcakes coming up at home. You should win all of those. So you might be heading into conference play, sitting at 8-1, even if you lose to Colorado. So, yeah, feeling pretty good, I think.
All right,
let's go beat Colorado, and then we're undefeated.
Yeah, let's just
going back into. I keep saying going into conference play, going back into conference.
Let's go undefeated just the entire season. That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I wonder what Ken Palm says our chances of that are right now. Oh, 0%.
0%.
Come on, Ken. We haven't lost yet. It's got to be more than 0.
Apparently, it's not.
It's got to be. Well, what it probably is there's probably more zeros before the 1.
Yeah, there's just too many. There's not
right
enough
now.
decimals.
It's 0.00. I don't know how many more zeros there are before the 1 shows up, but it's over there somewhere. I don't know where. I don't know. It'd be funny to see how many wins it would take to get it to register. I'll bet this one would probably get it to tick somewhere.
Maybe.
Wouldn't you think?
Maybe.
I don't know.
It depends on how much they rose in his ranking, so how much more stronger they were.
Right. It also helps that other teams like Washington and Cal keep losing. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of what you talked about. The rest of the conference is pretty good. Lots of top 50 teams. Arizona State, Arizona, Stanford, UCLA, USC, Utah, all top 50 teams. Well, Utah, I guess, is 54 right now, but still, it's close enough. So yeah, lots of pretty decent competition. Not too many cupcakes in there, but that's all right. I think we're good. We'll win some of those. Yeah, we should stop.
Yeah, that's the.
You keep trying to get me to stop, and I keep talking.
What do we plan? An hour?
I know. We were like, can we get this done in an hour? We started late tonight.
Yeah. All right.
I was trying to put my kids to bed. 9:30. Let's start at 9:30, and now I'm like, yeah, it's late.
All right. So yeah. Can
you tell I had a coffee earlier?
Yeah, I can tell. Definitely. even my one beer, I cannot battle that. But so at Pod versus Everyone for Jeff on Twitter, at the Craig Powers. For me on Twitter, subscribe. Please leave a nice review. Please, 5 stars. Please do that. If you leave a cool review, maybe we'll start reading some of them on the broadcast here. If you have any questions, comments, podcastvseveryone@gmail.com. Send them our way. Again, I'm going to do my quick check. Nope, still no emails. So we haven't gotten one since November 6th. Come on, send us some more emails. I like the emails. Podcastvseveryone@gmail.com.
Or if you have I don't know, like a question or something you want us to talk about, like
we could do a mailbag if we ever got a bag of mail. We could do a mailbag.
We could.
All right. Go Cougs, man.
Go Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.